Previously on... Are you kidding me? Before we continue with the events, I want to get a few weapons we didn't get last time. I'm doing this because our current loadout has some outdated weapons that are in need of an upgrade. Luckily for us, there are weapons that we can use in this stage of the game for this challenge. Unlucky for us, whatever, they're all located in the dungeon, the other most deadliest place besides the jungle. I didn't talk about being in the dungeon much last time, but I was having a bit of trouble surviving with the armor that I had, and the Zappinator. But now that we've upgraded it, hopefully it won't be as hard as last time we've been down here. Hopefully. The first item we want to get is the Frost Hydra Sentry. I didn't know where the chest was located at, so going in blind just ended up with me dying. So instead of going back in and dying multiple times to find it, I just used the map and tried to find the frozen chest that way. I say tried because I still couldn't find it. So we're just going in there the old-fashioned way and hope we end up finding it. The dungeon honestly has some pretty stupid enemies. Now I don't mean stupid as in their AI is stupid, but I mean it's stupid to fight against. Like this guy, who can shoot through walls while I can't, and gives me a debuff where I can't click on anything. I mean, I could still click the disconnect button, but at that point just... whatever. We pushed through and we're able to get the Frost Hydra Sentry. This sentry is actually pretty good. I can't believe I've been underestimating sentries this whole time. Sentries are actually super useful. Except for you. The Frost Hydra Sentry isn't the only weapon we want to get. I got a comment about using a certain weapon that closely behaves like the Engineer's short circuit ball. Now before I made this series, I had weapons already planned out for me to use. And this weapon was under my radar. That weapon being the Magnet Sphere. Now I know what you're thinking. Knight, all the weapons you use them because of how they look. Now you're using a weapon that looks nothing like any of the Engineer's weapons. Well, I'm still using the weapon because of how it looks. But I'm also using it because the idea is something I haven't really thought of. Basically, I'm using it because it's creative. There's a saying whenever you're grinding for an item with a chance or percentage drop. No matter the drop rate of said item, you will always have to spend more time than usual to get it. I've been in the dungeon for so long trying to get the Magnet Sphere that I ended up finishing an entire Swans album before I got it. Now the drop rate of this weapon is pretty low, being... I mean, the low drop chance makes sense since it's from a common enemy in the dungeon. But the closest low percentage item drop from the same enemies is the Key Brand, being at 1%. So how am I getting the Key Brand more than I'm getting the Magnet Sphere? Heck, how am I getting every single item but the Magnet Sphere? I could have increased my luck if I had gotten myself a Lucky Clover, Lucky Coin, and /or a Garden Gnome. Darn, I knew I should have gotten that Garden Gnome at the fairgrounds. Wait, wrong game. After a while, we finally got it. Definitely didn't take long. Now we can go on ahead and continue with the events. With the Golem defeated, we're now able to get the relics/trophies from the Old One's Army event. We weren't able to get it last time because it could only be dropped during the Tier 3 Old One's Army, which is basically post-Golem. Tier 3 Old One's Army also allows us to fight the final boss of that event, that boss being Betsy. That's not all. We're also able to trigger the Martian Madness event now that we've beaten Golem. Now that we're able to do all the relics, I figured now might be a good time to focus on the events and finish defeating every mini-boss for our goal. But before we do, we don't want to just go in there all silly-willy. We want to beat each event in order from easiest to hardest. Why? For my sanity. To figure out which event will be the first and last, we need to see which events has the easiest enemies to deal with and the most useful drops that can help us as we go. The Frost Moon is a Christmas themed event that needs to be summoned with the Naughty Present during nighttime. In terms of enemies, there are two enemies that may be a nuisance to us, the Elfcopter and Santa. Due to our limited health, we are extremely weak to fast, high damage projectiles, thus why these two may be a problem. In terms of drops, There isn't really anything that can help us. I guess the toy tank mount? But at this stage of the game, it's not really that useful. The Pumpkin Moon is a Halloween themed event that needs to be summoned with the Pumpkin Moon Medallion during nighttime. In terms of enemies, there aren't that many enemies that shoot projectiles, with the only ones that do slow enough for us to dodge it, making this event really good for us to tackle. In terms of drops, there also isn't much, except for one item that can really help us out. The Martian Madness is an alien invasion event. The event can only be started by finding a Martian probe. Our weakness, which is fast, high damage projectiles, makes the enemies in this event the worst. Not worse than Epstein, but still pretty bad. In terms of drops, it's the same as the Frost Moon. There isn't much that can help us. Okay, I'm done with the Epstein jokes. Now, knowing the enemies and item drops, I went with this order for us to do the events. The Pumpkin Moon will obviously be the first one. It has the easiest enemies to deal with and the best mount that can help us. The Frost Moon and Martian Madness are almost the same, but I chose the Frost Moon first since it's easier in progression. The All One's Army is last because I need a climactic ending. So with that out of the way, let's begin with... The Pumpkin Moon has two bosses for us to deal with, those bosses being Morning Wood and Pumpkin. Now, our goal for this event is not only to defeat those two bosses, but also to get the Witch's Broom. Now, you may think this item is dropped by the Pumpkin, but you'd be wrong. It's actually dropped by the Morning Wood. So we want to focus on killing Morning Wood more than Pumpkin. But that doesn't mean we should avoid him, of course. The Pumpkin is still very menacing if left alone. Now, I was fully prepared to go into this fight using the golf cart, but then I remembered we had the Shrimpy Truffle from beating Duke Fishron. So do we really need the Witch's... Yes. After killing a lot of Morning Woods, I was able to get the Witch's Broom. Good thing I didn't have to do the event again. As expected, the Pumpkin wasn't that torturous. However, I couldn't say the same for... The Frost Moon has 3 bosses for us to deal with, those bosses being Everscream, Santa, and Ice Queen. Since there isn't anything useful for this event, we just have to defeat the bosses and be done with it. Surprisingly, the last boss, the Ice Queen, is actually a lot easier than the other 2 bosses, and that's of course due to the projectiles they shoot. Everscream has 2 attacks, those being the Pine Needle attack and the Ornament attack. The ornaments are pretty easy to deal with, but the pines can cause a bit of a problem, most noticeably the visibility. Though Everscream isn't too difficult to deal with, Santa on the other hand is a pain, simply due to this attack. Now, I could just box up before he starts shooting, but what's fun if I have to run actually? It probably wouldn't be such a bad idea. It gets worse when both Everscream and Santa appear, because Everscream would just tank all the damage, allowing Santa to get an easy kill on me. As time passes, we're able to get this event done. Hello, I'm going a bit off script here. I know I haven't been uploading for a while, but that's because there's a lot of things that have been happening in my life, and I'm sure there's a lot of things that have been happening in your life as well. So, let's take this time to relax and enjoy this beautiful, empty scenery. What the heck is that? The Martians suck. And I don't mean they suck as in their AI sucks. I mean they suck dick! Luckily, the Martian Madness event has only one boss, the Martian Sorcerer. Throughout the times I fought this boss, I'd say it wasn't that difficult. Now, why would I say that? Because throughout this whole event, I was barely able to fight the boss. because the Martian sorcerer spawns after 30% or 50% of the event is done. Now, how is this bad? Because what I said before about the Martian Madness, all the enemies have fast shooting projectiles that deal massive damage, meaning that we'll die a lot. And every time we die, we drop coins. Or every time we kill an enemy, they drop coins. This gets worse when you realize that enemies that pick up coins don't despawn. If you see where I'm going, we have to be careful or else we'll clog up the enemy limit and no Martian sorcerer will spawn, which we did. After a long dreadful event, we were able to get ourselves the Xeno Staff. This item is really useful because if we give the item to the merchant, we'll receive 14 gold and 66 silver. Yeah, we don't need this item. At least we're done with the 3 events. So now we can focus our attention on the Old One's army has 3 bosses, with each boss building up as the waves go on. The Dark Mage and the Ogre are the 2 mini bosses, with Betsy being the main boss. Last time I used Hoiks to cheese the event. By hoiking in a specific way, it stops any ground entity from passing through. However, this time, I won't be using it, because 1, I want to beat this event the legit way, and 2, killing grouped up enemies with a non-crowd control weapon isn't great, especially when a heal station thing is inside everyone. However, I still use the cheese strat a bit simply to grind for defender medals. During my time grinding, I forgot to set up the cheese on one side. You'd think this wouldn't be a problem, but even when trying to focus on just one side, I was still having problems, especially when trying to get these green diamonds. So after my defeat, I went on a side quest to get myself the Hand of Creation, the quintessential engineer building accessory. Grinding the event with cheese can also lead to other problems as well. Like, what happens if we end up beating the event while grinding? Then we'll just say it doesn't count, since it wasn't legit, I don't know. So after spending our defender medals for better gear, it's time to beat the Old One's army legitly. So, Betsy wasn't supposed to focus on the crystal. She was actually supposed to focus on us. Dang, I had this like whole idea of an intense battle. Guess who finished this video in uni? This video is mainly focused on events, so there was a lot of talking in this one. So if you hate hearing my voice, I'm sorry. I hope you guys enjoyed the video. If you did, leave a comment, like and subscribe. I don't know, do all that junk. But mainly I just want feedback because, I want to make videos better. I read everyone's comments, so feedback is greatly appreciated. Anyway, that's all. Have a good night.
I'm about to come.